How do you go from this
Two-time World Poker Tour champion
to this? This is the story of one of the biggest talents, once worth over $20 million, and how he managed to burn all of his fortune thanks to his reckless gameplay. Gus made a career for himself thanks to his risky and unique gameplay that got him both paradise and hell in one lifetime. And when I say paradise and hell, I mean it. Imagine being worth over $20 million and now having to satisfy yourself with a regular job as an accountant. Ouch, that's gotta hurt. But not as much as this poker game, where everything started to go downhill for Gus, with him reportedly losing over $600,000 in one hand to a controversial casino owner. Furthermore, he even went to top this notorious record off and lose $1.5 million in the matter of a day. Gus Hansen, also known as the Great Dane, was born in Copenhagen, Denmark, on the 13th of February 1974. He was born as an only child, and it goes without saying that the potential he possessed as a kid was phenomenal, as he spent the majority of his time in elementary school being homeschooled by his mom and aunt. What was even more interesting in his life was the fact that he was set to have a professional career in tennis, and whether it was the play of fate or not, an injury prevented him from thinking about any kind of sports future whatsoever. Frustrated and very hungry to find himself a career, Gus started playing backgammon, setting the foundation for his poker career. This is something he was able to learn with his dad, and it goes without saying that his father was definitely proud that his son was able to learn and master the game so fast, showing massive potential that he could indeed be a professional poker player at some point in his life. Thanks to perfecting his strategies throughout the entire summer, Gus found love in the game of backgammon, beating every opponent and starting to organize bigger tournaments that took place on school grounds, bringing in the best players from around the country. Nonetheless, none of them stood a chance against the reckless strategies that Gus used, and this is where things started to get interesting, as this is what started to lead to both his rise and demise in the poker championship. Interestingly enough, Gus got a degree in accounting, just because his mother didn't want to leave him with only backgammon skills. And this is what is actually saving his life right now. Always eager to find new challenges and prove himself worthy of a life that could propel him into the stars, Gus has moved to the USA and has enrolled at the University of California, Santa Cruz, where he got his first contact with the poker world. Enjoying the sunny state of California, Gus was invited to a weekly poker tournament by one of his friends, more precisely, Texas Hold'em, something that Gus had never met before. However, with his natural talent to adapt quickly to anything that is served on his plate, Gus was able to master the game and quickly began beating the players with different strategies. And by the end of the night, Gus was the last man standing, imprinting the love of poker in his brain forever. This is where the Great Dane started to love the game of Texas Hold'em more and more, and he started to play it quite often for his liking, earning a lot more money than the teenagers at that age. The fact that he played poker during his military service time in Denmark, 2 years after he was enrolled in the USA, goes to show that he was not discouraged by the vast change that happened in his life. Quite the contrary, he found more passion in it. After serving time in the Danish military, Gus flew to New York and has definitely chosen to follow the path of gambling, developing the Gus Hansen poker-style gameplay, the culprit to everything that happened to his life from this point onward. His first appearance at the World Series of Poker happened in 1996, and while he was quickly eliminated due to his reckless hands, people often forgot that he had a lot of hard times during this adapting period in New York, possibly for the first time in his life. That, however, did not stop him from pursuing his dreams even further, and this is when he decided that if he was to win these tournaments, he would need a brand new bold tactic. Gus is probably one of the least fearing players when it comes to big bluffs, and he played his hands with a variety so crazy that it would make him almost impossible to read. You could see him go all in with one hand and then fold for 5 straight hands. This would make his mindset even more confidential, as it would make the opponents very confused because they couldn't recognize the pattern he was playing with. This is where the infamous quote, "I've raised with cards less attractive than what's in my toilet after I took a dump in it," came from, as Gus would often fly from New York to Las Vegas to play bigger games and finally start getting recognized in the poker world. While there was a lot of occasional losses along the way, Gus won way more than he lost with his new strategy, making the entire poker community pay attention to this newbie that seemed to be the next big thing. The first massive win that was embroiled by this tactic was at the World Poker Tour's 5-Diamond World Poker Classic in 2002, when Gus was able to beat all 146 opponents and take home a cash prize of $550,000. With Gus being Gus, he knew that there's no way he would stop here, and his next challenge was to prove that this was anything but beginner's luck. In 2003, Gus won the WPT LA Poker Classics, collecting yet another cash prize of $500,000. But more importantly, the poker world finally accepted him as one of their own, which then allowed him to have a kind of status in between the legends. But considering the fact that Gus was good at math, he knew that he needed to start a brand on the side, and that is exactly what he did, starting an online poker room called PokerChamps.com that got sold for a whopping $15 million 2 years after its creation to Betfair. Who would have thought that a newbie from Denmark could turn $15 million in just 2 years, mostly because he wants to focus on playing poker and travel around the world in search of a worthy opponent for his skill set? Lots of other prizes came Gus's way, such as the 3rd place in the 5-Diamonds World Poker Classics, as well as the 3rd WPT title after winning the PokerStars Caribbean Adventure in the year 2003, which is basically the golden year of the Great Dane. The culmination of his story happened in 2005, when Gus was invited to play in the Poker Superstars Invitational Tournament with a buy-in of $400,000, ending up as a winner against poker legends like Doyle Brunson and Phil Ivey, and earning a stunning $1 million as a prize. One of the biggest cash prizes from Gus was earned 2 years later in 2007 in Australia, when he was able to bank in $1.5 million as he placed in the top 10 in the Aussie Millions event, something he shared in his book Every Hand Revealed. Despite winning more than $7 million in live tournaments at this point, Gus signed a sponsorship deal with Full Tilt Poker, appearing in numerous videos for the brand, and sported their logo on his shorts for every game he competed in. The strange thing is that Gus was not losing money while playing in the tournaments in which he earned all of his money, but by playing online poker. Without the financial backing of Full Tilt, Gus was quickly throwing away all of his fortune, and to this day, he stands as one of the poker players that lost the most amount of money, $21 million on online poker. Even he himself said that the love for poker is no longer the same. On one occasion, he asked, "I think every competitive player has to question himself at some point and ask, has the game surpassed me? Am I rusty? Am I not good enough in this game anymore? I'm asking myself questions, and that keeps me up at night." It seemed like the start of his downfall was at the 2012 Aussie Millions $250,000 No Limit Hold'em Challenge, where he made it to the final table, but placed 3rd after Patrick Antonius and Phil Ivey. Gus didn't have too much to say for the cash prize of $820,000, but after that, the struggles to keep himself intact with what he did for the entirety of his gambling career started. Right now, Gus Hansen is working as an accountant and has accepted the 9-to-5 lifestyle, even though it is vastly different from what a legendary poker player is used to. A couple of years later, Gus stepped out of retirement, deciding to take yet another chance at the game of poker, and is now able to finance his life thanks to these small tournaments and the earnings from them. What do you think about the lifestyle of Gus the Great Dane? Let us know in the comments below.